yes, modern industrialization. So today we're going to be jumping back into more of this crazy tech mod. And I can already tell you, I've set up some more infrastructure since last episode. And some things have really started to build up. So this is exactly what I mentioned last episode, where I wanted to have every individual component, base component, crafted up and produced. As of right now, I've only set up copper, and we still have the bronze, I think it is. The bronze to set up. So bronze is going to allow me to show you exactly what has happened here and how I've got this whole side set up. And yes, this may look like some piping madness, and it exactly is what you think it is. It is piping madness, but I'm going to try my best to explain how these pipes work, and hopefully this will help us in our journey in producing more resources so we can actually autocraft these with applied energistics. But now that I have copper up, it's going to allow me to make things like the copper gear. So I have this all set up, just like I showed last episode, where everything's linked to the storage controller, including the fluids. And so with that, I've set up an interface, and this allows me to pull steam out, which I'm pumping steam into the back over here. And it allows me to pull steam out and also pull our lubricant out, allowing me to work the cutting machines. And you can see right here, the steam flowing through this pipe and the steam flowing, or the lubricant flowing through this pipe. And then right here, this is a different pipe. This is an item pipe. And it's not my favorite pipe in the world. I'm gonna do a little bit of explaining on how that works here in a second, but just keep in mind, we have all of these base products now stored. They will eventually stop. I'm gonna keep like 2,000 in stock for right now. And it's gonna allow me to auto-craft. So I can make, for example, a copper gear. And this is why we ended up setting up all of the storage with the assembler matrix. Because I want this to be able to craft pretty quick. And we're going to need quite a bit of components. Like there's actually going to be some other crafts as well that we're going to have to do. For example, these copper components right here, like copper blades, which utilize the curved plates and the rods. All of that I've got to get auto crafting recipes up for. Now for the bronze components, let's go ahead and start working on this. So inside of an ME interface, I have some bronze that's being produced, lubricant, and also steam, which is going to supply the fuel. Now on these machines, if I use a wrench on them, by default, they're going to be facing like so, and the back is typically the output portion. And then this is also going to be disabled. So we're going to see a little output icon like this. The way that we can move this once we get these placed is if you click, for example, on this top portion, it's going to move it to the opposite side or the other side, and it will continue to rotate. So that's sort of the idea. And then the corners here, if you shift right click, it will then send that output to the opposite side. Now in my case, I actually just want to send the output to the bottom. So you shift right click to send it to the bottom. And then up here should be the insert, even though not all machines will look like that, especially if they multi-block. But yeah, I don't know why this one shows an input. So for example, this machine right here, I'm going to want it to input automatically into the bottom machine. And so I'll shift right click, and that is now set up. And I do want to make sure auto eject is on. These are really nice that they auto eject, so you don't have to have machines all over the place where there's a pipe in between each one of them. The cool part is as well, they have connected. Like they look like one solid machine face, which is pretty cool. Now I'm going to be producing each of these materials. So bronze plates, bolts, the rods, and also the curved plates. These are all like the basic materials. And it's all going to come from just this one ingot. So what I'm going to need from the modernization, I'm gonna butcher that the entire day. I'm going to be needing some pipes, and this actually requires steel. And so you would technically be doing this, I guess, with your hand, like by hand, making all these components, and not typically automating these, I would assume, because I don't think there's a lower tier pipe than this item pipe. And yeah, this requires steel, which throughout this mod, you would have to have progressed quite a ways to even produce steel. Yeah, we still haven't set up the blast furnace. So let's go ahead and get these pipes in. Now there's a couple of tricks to getting these pipes set up. So by default, whenever you place them in, which we've already used the steam pipes, you're going to see that we place them in like so, and each one of these machines are going to need to be connected to the steam pipe. Actually, this one's connected as a lubricant pipe. But we'll see here in a minute that it's a little bit of a pain to kind of control that. But you can place in two separate pipes. So I can go ahead and place in here another pipe that's a different color. For example, this pipe is the black pipe, and this is going to be carrying another type of fluid. Now, a way that we can connect these automatically is by right-clicking, apparently, or shift right-clicking, right? Shift right-clicking with the pipe in our hand. And this is a lot nicer than trying to find the corner of the block and right-clicking with a wrench, because you're most likely not going to end up connecting the right part. So, yes, you can hold the pipe in your hand and you can shift right-click with the pipe, and that will then force that connection for that pipe onto the machine. Which is very nice. You can see right here, that makes it a whole lot easier to get these connected to the machine, and it doesn't make that very, very clear. So, speaking of doing that, we need to connect here, but I do want to filter this, and thankfully we can drag the thing in to filter. So as of right now, I want the black pipe. Let's go ahead and hold that. If right click, I want the black pipe here to hold steam. So I can drag that in and it will filter steam just like so. And then for this one, I want to drag in the lubricant and filter lubricant just like that. Now, none of these machines receive lubricant right here. I just was using this as an example. And you can shift right click on these particular pipes to remove it. The only machines that actually need lubricant right now are the cutting machines, in which they will receive it eventually. Right now, it's very lacking because my lubricant production isn't fully keeping up from what I remember. Oh, this right here also needs to be changed to IO. It looks like it's doing a pretty good job though, but there it went. It's just all gone. Thankfully, these processes don't use a whole lot of lubricant whenever they're running. So now I need to get pipes connected into here, and item pipes specifically. So let's go ahead and place items in here, and this is where these cables start to get kind of crazy looking. Now, in reality, the only thing I really need to pipe into is this one, this top, and these top machines right here. I also want to run a line over here, and I don't know, can I connect multiple pipe colors into one block space? Oh, you can't. So that's interesting. I guess for right now, I could just pipe it into the top. It's going to look really funny, but unfortunately, I was hoping to be able to cast my pipe over here to place it within this bundle. Doesn't look like you can do that. You're only stuck with this amount. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shift right click to connect here. I also need to connect here, connect to the top of this machine, and connect to this machine. Everything else can stay disconnected, not a big deal. But this is where item pipes are very weird. So by default, they work off of a whitelist. So you have to put the item in your output to be able to tell it, hey, pull this certain item out. You also need to make sure that extract is set to on, set to out. And you also have some priority systems that work in here, but you also have to change this for your inputs as well. So we probably could use black pipes, but we would have to filter every individual thing. But in this case, I just want to use this to kind of demonstrate here. You can either filter with whitelist, or you can change this to blacklist mode. By doing that, it's just going to pull everything. And that means you also need to change these to blacklist mode. And once you do this, you'll notice that if we have this on its own network, like we do here, that the bronze is going to start being supplied, which is exactly what we want. And same for the rest of these. And with these machines being as slow as they are, it's going to be more than enough to keep up with everything. And this should start functioning. Let's see, we need to make sure steam is set to output. I think that's the only thing limiting us right now. There we go. So now that we have steam going to everything, this is all going to start producing, and we should start seeing some passively produced materials, which is exactly what I'm wanting and going for. I recommend with this mod, having these materials just passively being produced. Otherwise, you're going to run into some issues later on down the road, and it's going to really help with autocrafting. Now, you know what? Just to show off the power of the cables all connecting together and utilizing their whitelisting system, I'm going to do that. I'm going to set this all up. That way, they're all connected with one colored cable. And so I'm going to switch all of these over to the black cable, running this across like so. There we go. They're all connected. Get this connected to the top. This connected to the top. Needs to be connected to this machine, that machine, this machine. Just like that. Let's see, I need to make sure that is linked together. Perfect. That side's linked. And this side is linked, and linked. Okay. So with everything connected, we see this is now connected. Looks a lot cleaner. We need to just set this to what these are. So for example, I have bronze ingots here. I have copper here. So this side, all of the inputs are going to be set to copper. This one is going to be an output here. But all of these inputs, I've got to reach in and set it to copper, same on this, set it to copper, and set these to copper. So yeah, they're pretty versatile. I do like these pipes, but like I said, they do get a little bit confusing when you start having multiple items routed through them. So for example, that goes in here, and then all of these are going to be set to bronze. So set that to output, bronze, and it'll work the same way. But like I said, setting the filter is probably a better idea. But I did want to show that you can route with a blacklist. Now, when working out all of these resources, essentially what I had done is I'd gone through and I was looking at like all of the individual bronze and copper components that we were going to need. And I noticed the bronze, well, this uses the rods and also the curved plates to make the blade. Well, these are the base resources, what I would call them, or base processes. And so this, while it can be made in a packager later on, this is something we can just auto-craft and make the auto-crafting recipe for. So it's nothing I need to worry about. So I had to find what all the base sort of components were that are used in these like gear crafts and things like that. And so really it's only 4 items. And I decided to go with a compressor and 2 compressors here because we need to make plates and then have that produced into the curved plates and then up here over and over again. So when making these machines, we don't have the plates and stuff to kind of work with. So we're all bulk crafting out of the forge hammer, and bulk crafting, well, that's something that we have to keep in mind whenever getting started with this mod. So I did bulk craft quite a few things to get these base machines up. Now, fun little tip when you are getting started with this mod, don't forget, you can actually click gunpowder on these, and whenever you click gunpowder on them, it will actually overclock them, making them a bit faster. And yeah, so you can actually extend quite a bit of time on here where they will overclock and work a bit faster. Especially for the compressors here, these take like 5 minutes or something like that to make a plate, like, or 5 seconds versus other stuff. So yeah, so definitely be sure to use this. And yeah, you can use gunpowder on them. Kind of a weird mechanic, but it does overclock them. With all of these components linked in and connected to our storage controller, I can now set up autocrafts, and I've done that. So I can go into modern and now have access to creating, for example, the cutting machine. So I can just now request a cutting machine and it crafts incredibly fast. Also, we can do the compressors. Now, my goal right here is to recreate this entire setup, but on this side, because I'm going to need to also produce steel in this way, and also gold. So we're going to produce the same materials, but for steel and gold on the opposite side. Now for the steel production, I'm going to be using a crafting card, very similar to how we're using the crafting card over here for the bronze. And using AE or using Mekanism to actually do the crafting. Now, typically within this mod, you would have to make steel within its EBF. And that process is kind of meh. And it is nice that we can actually do this within Mekanism, kind of saving us a whole lot of steps. And allowing us to use our EBF for something here that we're going to be doing here in a second, which is making plastic, or making rubber, I mean, not plastic. So the way that I'm going to set this up is the exact same method over here. I have 2 separate setups. I'm going to be using gold over here, and then I'm going to be making the steel, and all of these parts are going to be produced. And this is probably going to be a pretty common theme as we continue on. And as of right now, these are all set up and they are the bronze tier, but we actually have an upgrade that we can just use to right click on these machines that will upgrade them directly later on. So now with all of these components up and running, we can almost start converting all of our machines into steel, but I actually want to get something else set up first. So it's going to kind of simulate what we have over here, but it's going to be a new machine. And this is going to be the steam blast furnace. All right, so to get the steam blast furnace up, let's put the wrench in our offhand, and then we're going to place this down and check. And I think this actually does stay on the floor. Does it not? We actually might need to raise this up one. I think it is a little bit higher. So let's, for example, place this here and then place it down. Actually, is it even higher than this? No, I think this is the actual height. Just to make sure, we need to use all of these bricks. So let's go ahead and start filling this in, just like so. The middle is going to be hollow, and the way you get that projection right is by putting the wrench in your offhand. And I think if this uses up all of our bricks, then we know we've done it right. And it looks like we're off by just a little bit. So yes, I thought I had crafted too many, or not crafted enough. But yes, there's going to be 3 slots that are available for our inputs and outputs, right? Because we need 3 of them. So we need an item input and an item output and 1 fluid output. So I'm going to put the fluid output over here just to kind of mimic the other side. And then on the face is where I typically like to put our item input and output. So item input is going to go on this side, and item output. Oh wait, I have that backwards, right? So put the item input over here, item output over here, and the fluid output in the back. Perfect. And that should be fully complete, and we have a steam blast furnace, and it says the shape is valid and all is well. Perfect. So how do we get fluid in here? Since this does run off of steam, right? So I believe we probably need a way to power this, right? The quest shows that we only need these slots, but I'm almost positive we also need a fluid input slot as well, just like our other one, to provide it steam. Now, as far as the items go for the machine, we're going to be kind of working our way towards making rubber sheets. So we need to go the path of synthetic oil. To get synthetic oil, we need to basically produce inside of this blast furnace. We need to convert raw synthetic oil. So we are going to need probably 2 fluid, right? Because we're kind of skipping the whole part for this blast furnace here, which this is kind of showing you how to make steel. We're not doing that. So we actually may lose some of these hatches right now. The main thing that we're really going to be pushing through here is just the rubber sheets and skipping the steel. So to do this, right, I just need to have a fluid input hatch and a fluid output hatch. Well, 2 fluid input hatches, technically, 1 for steam and 1 for the raw synthetic oil. To produce the synthetic oil, though, we are going to need a mixer, and this is going to require water, steam, and coke dust, which we're actually producing from over here. Now, I feel like a lot of this is sort of repetitive, right? So we're taking items from one location to another. So I'm doing the same thing with the interface. For example, this interface right here, I have a bunch of slots that I can have items in. One of those items, for example, is going to be the dust here. So the item just goes in. I set it to a value like 64, for example, and then I'm just going to run a pipe that connects into here. Preferably not connecting to this. Actually, I could use a different color pipe, but I just want to route that item and run it through just like so. As of right now, this is not whitelisted and connected, but we can have like multiple different items, right? So I can connect here and I can say, okay, for this extract, only make sure it pulls out the dust and make sure it's set to out. And we should be able to then see that item get put in. So yeah, it can connect down here. I think there is a way actually to disconnect this. Yeah, just like so, just for the looks. So we can visually see that it is in 2 separate locations. But the mixer should be mixing so long as we give it some steam to work with, which I do have down here. And now with this in here, we're going to be producing raw synthetic oil. That is going to go into my drawer. As soon as we get a little bit in there, I will lock this up. It's almost there. There we go. Beautiful. Lock it up and then sync it with our applied energistic system, just like that. And then we can send it over here. So this is going to be added. I can go ahead and hit A while hovering over that to add that to our favorites list. So that way we can drag that into here. Beautiful. And we'll set that to 1 to keep 1 bucket in stock. And then we just need to also do the same thing here. So this white pipe is going to be the pipe that is for our synthetic oil. So we'll make sure that's the same. And then right here, we'll make sure this is set to steam. And then put them both in output mode. Now, once this is done, this should start to receive that product. And it's going to convert it. It's going to convert it over, and then it's going to end up over here. So I have a puller upgrade that is pulling from the output hatch here. Because I don't know if the output hatches can auto output. Oh, they can. So it says auto eject. So technically we don't even need it to do that. It should be able to auto eject. And right here we have synthetic oil that is now being passively produced. And just like the other ones, we want to make sure to lock that and store it to our network. Now I just need to move the synthetic oil around. So I need to add this. Oh boy. Which it doesn't look like there's an easy way to do this within JEI. Otherwise, oh, never mind. I just can't see it. It's so dark. Okay. So I need to add the synthetic oil now into one of these, and we'll set that to 1 bucket. And I'm going to use like red pipes now to pipe this fluid over here. So let's do this. Shift right click. Get the pipes moved about. I can even have it go into here. Might as well. Spread it around. Beautiful. Make sure that gets connected. That gets connected. And then we just need to set that filter to our synthetic oil. So we're getting very close to having rubber and actually moving into the next tier, believe it or not. So that's set to out, and this is in. So synthetic oil there. Now we do need to get an item into this, so I'm going to be pulling an item from here, which is going to be the paper. And I can just use the orange cables, make sure that gets connected, and route that around, and send that directly into here. Perfect. And then yes, we have to set the filter on both of these. The filter is paper out and paper in. Beautiful. Paper should show up momentarily. There we go. And as soon as we give this some steam, it should start producing the rubber. There we go. And then the auto eject is set to on, and that's producing that down here. Oh, and we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so that's got to get added. And now that that's added, we have rubber production. So when I said we're close, we're actually very, very close to making our first analog circuit. And this is what gets us into sort of the next part of this mod and allows us to get into the electric side of things. Now, to produce this, there's still a few things left to do. So we just got our rubber sheets. That's good. But we actually need to now make a wire mill so that way we can produce these copper fine wires and also copper wires. And then we need a macerator to macerate up some coal and make coal dust. Really, we can actually skip the macerator if we really wanted to. It looks like this can also be made inside of our crusher, which would probably be a lot faster, to be fair. So I'm probably going to go about it that way. And I think we already have that on Autocraft. If not, I can just simply make an Autocraft recipe for it. So not a huge deal there. And I can go ahead and boop. Perfect. We now have that ready to go. So that's on craft and ready to go, but we've got to get those wire mills up and running. Now to implement the steel wire mills, and I'm just going to place these down here, and we're going to have a normal one and then a stacked version. And that's because we have to process the fine copper wire, which requires kind of just a loop in product. And then on top of those, we are going to place compressors on both of these. And yeah, this is going to receive copper, and so is this, and it's all just going to run down until we ultimately finish the product at the bottom. So now let's go ahead and put the copper in the filters, just like this. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful sight to see. And then I just need to have the auto eject set on all of these. Oh, that's actually a gross sound. I was not expecting the wires to sound like that. But there we go. And now we are passively producing those ingredients as well. Now with all of this put together, we can now enter the steel age. And I should have been doing this before, but we can now craft these steel upgrades. And for example, I can upgrade these boilers by, I think, shift right clicking. And now these steel boilers should be producing more steam and be more effective at doing it. And we can also start to upgrade our other machines as well. For example, this should now start to produce faster, and so on and so forth. And so now we have done it. Now with all of these components put together, we can start the auto crafting process of making an analog circuit. So this is going to get us into our first step, in my opinion, into this, the actual part of the mod. This has kind of been like the build up to this very moment. So let's go ahead and start by building out the first part of the recipe, and then we can start to work on all of the individual components. Thankfully, we already did gold, so we made sure to get gold as a part of this, which is something I definitely wanted to do. So now we have the capacitors, all of the basic components for capacitors ready to go. The analog circuit board, all of the basic components for that are ready to go. The resistors, we now have all of the components for that as well. And then we have the inductors, which we have all of the ingredients for. So fantastic. So now with that, we can go ahead and put all of these in, and we can now auto craft this. And so any recipe that's going to require it will craft incredibly fast. So let's put this to work. So analog circuit, and let's at least craft our first one. And voila. I think the one thing making it slow is just waiting for the mechanism to just crush the charcoal on request. But later on, we'll definitely have charcoal probably being produced with a macerator. But there we go. That is it. We have completed modern industrialization. No, I'm just kidding. We're far from complete, but this definitely gets us in. It lets us get our hands a little bit more dirty as far as the electric parts of this mod goes. So now we have all of our basic components. We're going to have to start working on more things automated the way we're doing it. For example, tin is another one that's going to have to go through some processes to make some wires so we can get our cables. A ton of new things actually just unlocked, which is going to be kind of interesting. And we're getting very, very close to the EBF, which is going to be what we use to start producing steel and other more complicated components. Now, with all of this done, we have our circuit, and we now have successfully, in my opinion, completed the early stages of this mod. But there's still more things that I need to do, which I will probably be doing sort of in between episodes to prepare for the next tier, which is going to be getting into low voltage. This is going to be kind of an interesting process, but I am going to need to, in between episodes, for example, kind of do the same setups that I've been doing here, but get them set up for tin. And there's also a couple of alloys that we need to start producing in a mixer, which is going to involve Invar dust and also battery, which is a couple of other ores that we also have. These are just going to go in a mixer, and I'll get them started in their production cycle as well. And it's going to look very similar to this room, but in the next room. And all of this is going to prep us for getting started, like I said, with the electrical era. Oh man, LV! So, if you guys did enjoy today's episode, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, of course, a huge thumbs up. And of course, with that said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to PM2305. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. And with that, guys, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye!